Weschenfelder sent me one of their rubs that they do. This is kind of the pepper steak coat, which is here. You might have seen these MRC tubs before, but they're quite on trend at the moment. A lot of people are raving about them. Caribbean jerk glaze, you've got garlic and butter glaze, smoky barbecue glaze, even your Chinese ones, you know, when you get the ribs, those red kind of ribs. Really good quality, high-end product. So I'm going to try this with a fallow venison rump. The rump steak is actually one of my favourites, especially with the young fallow buck like this one was from. So I've cut the end of it off there, and all I'm going to do is trim the fat. So I don't like to have the fat on my venison steaks, just because it's not as palatable as say beef fat or lamb fat. So I'm literally just going to trim that off as such. It's got a kind of a nice big fat cap on that one. Just trim that off there. Nice bit of rump. Got trim, and then I've got the second piece here. So we've got our steaks there, and I'm actually going to cook them like that. So I'm not going to break them down to really nice pieces. So I'm just going to take that glove off. So I've got a clean hand, and now I'm actually going to coat. You smell it. It smells really, really nice. Lots of kind of spices. You can smell the pepper in that as well. So I'm just going to cover it liberally on there, on both sides. Just pat it on. I'm going to let that just a couple of minutes just absorb into that then. I'm going to sear that off and see what it tastes like. I've got a pan here, cast iron pan. I've got an induction hob. These things are great. That gets temperature very quickly. Lightly coated with oil. I've got some butter in it as well. I'm going to just sear it first and add the butter and just baste it over. Hear that sizzle? I hope you're hungry.
I'm always hungry, you know that.
There we go. So I'm going to leave it on the pan. It's got a very, very light coating of oil. So that's going to colour it. It's going to stick to it, colour it. Then once we flip it over, I'm going to add the butter and just baste it over. Keep it nice and moist.
Do all steaks?
There's lots of different ways to do steaks. This is the way I like to do steaks. I like to have a nice kind of crisp coating on the outside, medium to rare in the middle. So about 50 degrees. See, that's what I look for. But I feel it now. Once you've done enough of them, you can feel it and you get that kind of texture. It's that nice. Smells good. In a barbecue term, I call that bark.
Oh, really?
That crispy, crunchy. It's like bark from a tree, isn't it? So I can tell that's done now. It's a little bit spongy inside, so you know that it's still going to be kind of medium rare in there. Same with that little one. That little one took less time, so I actually popped that on top for a while, just to delay the cooking process, but kept it warm. So now I'll turn this off. That's ready. I'm just going to grab a tray and stick them on. Now this is the important bit. For a good steak or any piece of meat, you really need to let that rest, because what it's done there, it's contracted, everything's pushed inside. So you need to take off the heat and just let everything fall into place. All the flavors will be in there. So when you cut, it'll be a better color inside as well, and all that flavors will be locked in, and it's not going to just pour all over the plate. So you can cover that with foil as well, but 10 minutes, I'll put that on the side, maybe like 15. And then when you cut that later on, you'll see it'll just be a perfect pink in the middle.
15 minutes, I'm impatient.
I know, but it'll be worth it, I promise you, it will be worth it. And we can tidy up. I'll get into the dishes actually while we do this, is that all right? Yeah, this is the moment of truth, David. So this is the MRC pepper steak rub we put on that, and you can see it's nicely coated. So I'm going to take the end piece off.
Oh, good lad.
You can see how that pinkness has gone through it perfectly.
I thought you'd overdone it.
Well, that's experience for you.
Just giving it a bit of a poke and then realising it was going to be that sort of. Oh man.
So you can see, so with the rump, the venison rump, you can see the texture is very much like beef. Okay. Nice and juicy. I'm going to let you taste this now, David.
Oh God. I'm going to put the camera down. This is just.
Oh, that's there for you.
How could anyone have an issue with?
That's just gorgeous, isn't it?
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Delicious texture in that. I could eat that all day. I probably will. Have another piece.
Thank you.
What that would be really good for as well, if you wanted to do a Sunday roast, you want to roast like a venison joint, you can coat that in it and get that nice crisp spark on the outside. Have that with a rich red wine gravy or jus.